All right, so Stockholm. Ready to dive in.
Always ready for a new adventure.
Perfect. And maybe skipping the whole Venice of the North thing this time.
Right. I think our listeners are past the nicknames at this point.
Yeah, they're savvy travelers.
Yeah.
But seriously, all those islands and bridges, that's got to be impressive, right?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that makes Stockholm so unique.
For sure. And to get us started, we've got some excerpts here from a recent travel blog.
Oh, this one. Yeah, it's really practical, focused,
Exactly. Like how to actually plan a trip, get the most out of it without getting bogged down.
Exactly. Less, here's every single thing you could ever do. And more, like, here's what you shouldn't miss.
Love that. So first up, the Stockholm archipelago. I mean, over 30,000 islands, that's a lot of islands.
Mind-boggling, right? Hard to even picture.
Yeah, it's like, where do you even begin? But the blog had a good approach, I thought.
Yeah, they recommend a specific boat tour, which I thought was smart.
Makes sense. Kind of get your bearings, see the highlights.
Yeah, and it's not just any boat tour. It's on, like, a classic ship and an expert guide, too.
Oh, nice. So you're learning as you go, not just, like, looking at pretty scenery.
Right, exactly. It's about understanding the archipelago, its history, all of that.
I like it. And they specifically mention Vaxholm Fortress as a stop.
Oh, yeah, Vaxholm. It's amazing.
I bet it has some stories to tell, huh?
Oh, definitely. Dates back to the 16th century. Key role in defending Stockholm, from
Right.
attacks from the sea.
Wow, so it's a real glimpse into the past. And I love that they give a specific lunch recommendation, too, in Vaxholm.
Yeah, the Vaxholm's Hembig Sigurd's Cafe.
Yeah.
Right on the water. I mean, can you imagine seafood after exploring this historic fortress?
Sounds like a perfect afternoon to me. Okay, so that's the archipelago. But then there's Skansen, the open-air museum. I've heard so much about it.
It's the oldest one in the world. Did you know that?
Seriously, wow. But what makes it so special, beyond just old buildings?
Yeah. Well, it's not just about the buildings. It's like whole environments, farmsteads, workshops, all of it.
Yeah.
And people in costumes, like bringing it to life.
Oh, wow. So you're really stepping back in time. It's not just like looking at exhibits.
Exactly. You're experiencing them.
Okay, I gotta ask, did the blog mention fika?
Of course they did.
Yeah.
It's Sweden. You can't escape fika.
Uh-huh, true. Any specific recommendations?
They recommend the cafe near the zoo, actually, for the cinnamon buns. But they also say get there early to avoid the crowds.
Always solid advice. Nothing worse than trying to enjoy a cinnamon bun in a massive crowd.
Exactly.
All right, let's switch gears a bit. Stortinget Square in Gamla Stockholm's old town. Classic spot.
Oh, yeah. It's visually stunning with those colorful buildings, centuries old.
Yeah, super Instagrammable, I bet. But there's got to be more to it than just pretty pictures, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the oldest square in Sweden. It's seen a lot of history. Royal processions, even public executions.
Whoa, public executions. Okay, that's not something you hear every day. And didn't the blog mention something about a cannonball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Embedded in one of the buildings. It's a great little detail. Adds to the, the mystique.
Totally. I love those little things that make a place come alive. Okay, you mentioned public executions. That sounds pretty dark. What exactly happened there? With the Stockholm bloodbath, was it?
Yeah, so that was, it was King Christian II of Denmark back in 1520. He wanted control of Sweden.
Okay, so there was, like, tension there.
Oh, yeah, big time. And he invited all these Swedish nobles to Stockholm for a feast.
A feast, huh? Sounds fancy.
It was a trap. He had over 80 of them executed.
Right.
Right there in Stortinget Square.
Wow. That's intense. I guess every place has its shadows, even the most beautiful ones.
It's true. That's part of the story.
Okay, so we've got this historic square with a dark past, and then right next to it, the blog mentions, is the Nobel Prize Museum. That seems like a big jump in mood.
Right. It's interesting, though, how they're literally right next to each other. The museum is in the old stock exchange building.
Huh. So it's like Stockholm blending its past and present, from public executions to Nobel Prizes.
Exactly. And it shows how the city has evolved. It's a center for, innovation and global collaboration now.
That's a good point. It's not just about separate attractions. It's how they all fit together. Speaking of the Nobel Prize Museum, did I hear right that they have free guided tours?
They do. And they're not just quick walkthroughs either. They're really in-depth. You learn about the history of the prize, the laureates, all that.
Free and in-depth, that's a win-win. Okay, let's stay with the history theme for a bit. The blog also talks about Riddarholmen Church and the Royal Palace.
Two of Stockholm's most iconic landmarks.
So what makes them so special? What should people know?
Well, Riddarholmen Church, it's where they buried Swedish monarchs for centuries. And the architecture is amazing. It's like a timeline of Swedish design.
So it's not just a church, it's like a royal tomb and an architectural masterpiece all in one.
Exactly.
And the royal palace, that's got to have some stories too.
Oh, tons. I mean, the one you see today is actually the third palace built on that site. The first two burned down.
Oh, wow. Talk about a dramatic history. But what's interesting is the blog mentioned a connection to the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah. King Charles XII, he was a bit of an adventurer, let's say. He spent time in the Ottoman Empire
Yeah.
during one of his campaigns.
Okay, so this was back in the 17th century?
Late 17th, early 18th. And he loved their architecture.
Mm.
So much so that he incorporated some of those elements into the design of the new royal palace.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's not just a Swedish palace, it's got this Ottoman influence too.
It's a reminder that, even back then, the world was more connected than we might think.
Totally. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got a church with a royal past and a palace with Ottoman flair. Anything else in this historic district that the blog recommends?
They specifically mention the changing of the guard ceremony at the royal palace. It's quite a spectacle. Marching bands, synchronized movements, the whole 9 yards.
I love those kinds of things. Pomp and circumstance, gotta have it. And they remind people to check the opening hours for Ritterholmen Church, which is always good advice.
Nothing worse than showing up to a closed attraction.
Nope, totally agree. Okay, all this exploring has worked up an appetite. Time to talk food. And I think I know what's coming. Swedish meatballs.
Had to mention them. But here's a fun fact. Ready for this?
Hit me with it.
They might actually have Ottoman origins.
Wait, what? Seriously, the Ottoman Empire keeps popping up.
I know, right? It's wild. Remember King Charles XII, our Ottoman-loving king? Well, they think he brought the recipe back with him after his time there.
No way. So Swedish meatballs, this iconic dish, it could be a culinary souvenir from the Ottoman Empire. That's incredible.
It shows how food can tell us so much about history and cultural exchange.
Absolutely. Okay, so now I'm really craving these Ottoman-inspired meatballs. Where does the blog recommend we go?
Well, they mention blåduren, which is known for traditional Swedish food and nice atmosphere.
Sounds good. Any other options?
They also mention Oostermalm's Saluhall. It's a covered market, lots of different vendors. Might be a bit more budget-friendly.
Love that they give options. Okay, so we've had our meatballs. Now we need a good walk. Any suggestions?
They recommend the Montiliusvägen Cliff Path in the Södermalm district.
Södermalm, that's like the trendy area, right?
Yeah, lots of cool shops, cafes, all that. And the path has these amazing views of Lake Mälaren and Gamla Stan. And it's paved, so you don't need hiking boots or anything.
Perfect. Scenic views, leisurely stroll, maybe some window shopping afterward.
Yeah.
It's like a winning combo.
Exactly, the best of both worlds.
All right, so we've got historic squares, a palace with a Turkish twist, meatballs with a surprising backstory, and a scenic cliff walk. What else could Stockholm possibly have up its sleeve?
Well, how about swimming?
Swimming. In Stockholm. Isn't it, like, freezing there?
It can be chilly, yes. But the Swedes love to swim, even when it's not exactly beach weather.
Huh, I never would have thought of that. Where do they even swim?
There are several spots within the city. Långholmen Strandbad, Smedsudsbädé, Tanto Strandbad. They even recommend jumping off the jetty at Tanto Strandbad.
Just jumping into the Baltic Sea? Okay. I might need to work up to that. But it's cool that swimming is such a part of the culture there.
Yeah, it's about embracing the outdoors, no matter the weather.
All right, I'm adding swim in Stockholm to my bucket list. What's next on our whirlwind tour?
Speaking of things that might surprise you, how about ABB?
Okay, now you're speaking my language. The blog mentioned ABBA, the museum, right?
Yes. And it's not just your typical museum. It's all about immersion. You can sing with ABBA holograms, record yourself in a karaoke booth, even virtually try on their costumes.
Wait, sing with ABBA holograms? That sounds amazing.
It's a total blast.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm picturing myself belting out Dancing Queen with, like, a holographic Agnetha.
I can't wait to hear it.
All right, so we've got swimming in the Baltic Sea and dancing with ABBA holograms. This Stockholm itinerary is getting better and better.
It's shaping up to be quite the adventure.
I know. We haven't even talked about Fotografiska, the photography museum the blog raved about, or all the other amazing things I'm sure we haven't even discovered yet.
That's the thing about Stockholm. There's always something new to explore, no matter how many times you visit.
It's true. All right, I'm feeling inspired to book my flight.
Me too.
But before we get too carried away, maybe we should take a quick break, catch our breath. We'll be back soon to continue our Stockholm deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
All right, back to Stockholm. Before the break, we were all over the place. Ottoman palaces, swimming in the Baltic, you name it.
It's a city of surprises, that's for sure.
It really is. So what else did this blog dig up? Any other hidden gems we should know about?
Well, they mentioned this place, Skanarviksberget. Apparently, it's like the highest natural point in Stockholm. Can you imagine the views?
Okay, yeah, the highest point, that's got to be pretty epic. Did they say anything about what's up there?
Not much, just that the views are stunning. Oh, and they recommend packing a picnic.
A picnic with a view. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, they specifically said there aren't any, like, shops or cafes up there.
Good to know. So no impromptu fika at the summit, but a picnic sounds perfect.
Right. And for directions, they said it's about a 30-minute walk from Gamla stan, or a quick 5-minute walk from the Zinkensdamm Stadium metro station.
Okay, so easy to get to, amazing views. Got it. What else?
Remember we were talking about the Ottoman influence on Swedish meatballs?
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, who knew?
Well, it turns out it's not just the meatballs. The royal palace itself has this Ottoman connection, too.
Wait, really? I thought we covered that with the architecture and all.
This is different. It's a specific room, the Turkish chamber.
A Turkish chamber. Inside the royal palace.
Yep. Designed in the 18th century,
Right.
all Ottoman-inspired.
Yeah.
Like the textiles, the furniture, everything.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like layers upon layers of history all in one place.
It really is. And it shows how, ideas and influences travel across continents, across centuries.
Totally. Okay, I gotta see this Turkish chamber. And speaking of the royal palace, the blog did say it's one of the largest in Europe, right? Like 600 rooms or something crazy?
Something like that, yeah. Hard to even imagine.
I know. Did they say which parts to focus on? If you only have, limited time?
They mentioned the royal apartments to see how the monarchy lives, and the treasury, of course, for the crown jewels.
Ooh, crown jewels. Can't miss those. And of course, the changing of the guard. We talked about that before.
Yep, they just reminded people to get there early for a good spot, especially during, peak season.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got our palace fix. What's next?
They talked a lot about the Södermalm district, that area we mentioned with the cliff walk.
Yeah, the trendy one.
Exactly. Lots of independent boutiques, vintage shops. Great for finding, unique souvenirs.
Okay, so shopping is on the agenda. And then that walk, the Montelius-Wagen Cliff Path, that was in Södermalm, right?
Yep. They suggested combining the two, explore the shops, grab a coffee and pastry, then head to the path for the views.
Perfect combination. All right, now I have to bring this up again because it still blows my mind. Swimming in Stockholm. Did they give more details on that?
They did. They listed a bunch of specific swimming spots. Långholmen Strandbad, Smedsudsbädde, Tonto Strandbad.
Okay, a few options then, not just one random place.
Right. And they said it's really a summer thing,
Mm-hmm.
To escape the heat.
Makes sense. But still, swimming in the Baltic Sea. It's not exactly what I pictured for Scandinavia.
It's all about embracing the local lifestyle, right? Even if it's a little chilly.
I guess so. And did they say anything about, warming up afterwards? It can't be swimming weather all year round, right?
They mentioned that a lot of these swimming spots have saunas.
Oh, of course. Saunas. That's so Swedish. So you can take a dip in the Baltic, then warm up in a sauna. Perfect.
Exactly. The best of both worlds.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. All right, what else?
Well, they went back to ABD, the museum. We were talking about how interactive it is.
Yeah, with the holograms and all that. I'm still kind of geeking out about that.
Well, they described this exhibit where you can, actually sing with ABA in a recording booth.
Seriously? As if you're part of the band.
Yeah. And then they, analyze your voice
Yeah.
and compare it to ABA's to see, which member you're most like.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That would be so much fun.
Right. Shows how museums are getting so creative these days. It's not just about looking at stuff anymore, it's about experiencing it.
Totally. Okay, so we've got singing, swimming, saunas. What else could this blog possibly have in store for us?
Well, they talked about Fotografiska, the photography museum.
Oh, yeah, I've heard great things about that.
They said it's a must-visit for anyone who loves photography, or, just art in general.
Did they mention any specific exhibitions?
Not really. They just emphasized that it's always changing.
Yeah.
So there's always something new to see.
I like that. Keeps it fresh. What about the building itself? Is it a cool space?
Yeah, it's a former industrial building, so it has that cool, edgy vibe. And they mentioned the restaurant. Apparently it has panoramic views of the city.
Okay, a stunning art space, a great restaurant, city views. Fotografiska is officially on the list. Now, I remember something about a medieval monastery. Was that Fotografiska or something else?
Oh, that was Ridderholmen Church, the one we talked about earlier, where they buried the monarchs.
Oh, right.
It was originally part of a a Franciscan monastery
Hmm.
back in the 13th century.
Wow, so much history layered into one place. It's amazing.
That's Stockholm for you. The
Yes.
past and present all blended together.
Speaking of the past, can we go back to the Stockholm bloodbath for a minute? The blog mentioned it, but I'd love to hear more.
Sure. It was it was a pretty pivotal moment in Swedish history. Back in 1520, King Christian II of Denmark, he was trying to take over Sweden.
Right, there was that tension we talked about.
Exactly. And he invited all these Swedish nobles to Stockholm for a feast. But it was a trap. He had over 80 of them executed, publicly.
Wow, just wow. It's hard to believe something so brutal happened in, what's now such a beautiful city.
It's a reminder that history isn't always pretty,
Hmm.
but it's important to know, to understand.
Definitely. Okay, and before we move on, I got to ask about those meatballs again. The Ottoman connection, it's just too cool. Tell me more about, like, the history of the dish itself.
Well, as we said, they think King Charles XII brought the recipe back with him from the Ottoman Empire in the early 1700s.
And it just, like, became a Swedish staple.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's funny how food can, like, travel across cultures and become so ingrained.
It's true. So where should we go to try these historically significant meatballs?
The blog recommended Blodeuren for a traditional experience.
Right.
Or Östermalm Saluhall if you want more of a, casual market vibe.
Nice. Options are always good. And then to walk it all off, we've got that cliffside path. Exactly. Views, fresh air. What more could you ask for?
Seriously. All right, so far this Stockholm trip is shaping up to be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Meatballs, history, stunning scenery.
Don't forget the swimming and the ABBA.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget? Okay, I'm ready for more. What else does this blog have in store for us?
Well, I'll see what else they dug up.
Okay, so we're back one last time for our Stockholm deep dive. And wow, what a trip it's been, even just talking about it.
It's such a vibrant city, so much to see and do.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. Churches, palaces, meatballs, the Baltic Sea, even ABBA holograms.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has. But before we officially say Hej då to Stockholm, I wanted to go back to something the blog emphasized. That Stockholm really does have something for everyone.
Oh, yeah, they made that point clear. It wasn't just like a niche travel guide.
Right. It was for like anyone and everyone who might be interested in visiting.
Exactly. And they highlighted all those different experiences you can have: history, art, food, nature, you name it. And I think that's what makes it so appealing, No matter what you're into, you'll find something to love in Stockholm.
Absolutely. Whether you're a history buff who wants to like spend all day in museums, or a foodie who's all about trying new restaurants.
Or someone who just wants to, wander around and soak up the atmosphere.
Right, exactly. There's something for everyone.
And what's cool is how Stockholm blends all those different elements so well. Like, you can be exploring these medieval streets in Gamla Stan one minute and then, checking out a cutting-edge art exhibit the next.
Yeah, it's not like everything is like separated into neat little boxes. It all flows together.
Exactly. It's like a tapestry, woven from all these different threads. But it creates this beautiful, cohesive whole.
I like that analogy. It really captures the essence of Stockholm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I have a little challenge for our listeners. Imagine you have just 24 hours in Stockholm. What do you do? What absolutely cannot be missed?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, there's so much to choose from.
Right. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on, like, what you're most interested in.
Yeah. Are you a museum person?
Yep.
A foodie? Do you want to be out in nature? It all depends.
Exactly. But the beauty is, whatever your answer is, Stockholm has it.
And that's what makes it so special. It's a city that really invites you to explore, to discover, and to create your own unique experience.
I love that. So listeners, as we say hej då to Stockholm, think about that challenge. What would your perfect 24 hours look like? What would you absolutely have to see or do?
And maybe even, share your dream itinerary with us. We'd love to see what you come up with.
This deep dive has been so much fun. We've uncovered a lot. Ottoman connections, historical treasures, even the surprising origins of Swedish meatballs.
And I think we've shown that a travel blog can be more than just, a list of things to do. It can spark your curiosity, get you thinking about, the deeper stories behind a place.
Absolutely. So until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep sharing your travel tales. The world is full of wonders just waiting to be discovered.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.